where 6 and 7 figure CEOs build their purpose driven legacy businesses through proven branding, marketing, and sales strategies so that they don't have to sacrifice their income and happiness for their mission. Thanks for watching the Life School Masterclass show. Join our Facebook group community of badass mission driven entrepreneurs, and come back next week, same place and time for our upcoming show.
All right. Hello, purpose-driven entrepreneurs. Welcome back to another show. This is a special Valentine's edition. I wish you have a great Valentine's Day today and a day full of love. And it really aligns with the topic today, which we're going to be talking about the 3 pillars of intimacy with Melissa Keenan. And Melissa is a keynote speaker, international and USA Today best-selling author. And she is the go-to intuitive intimacy expert for high-achieving spiritual CEOs. And Melissa helps these leaders gain more confidence, connection, ease, and trust in their personal relationships without losing momentum in their business. I'm so glad to have Melissa back. Melissa, this is our second time that you are in our purpose-driven community, so to speak. So I'm so glad to have you here today and really share value around this very important topic today of how to create intimacy that, we can also align it with our business. As we know, as, ambitious, purpose-driven entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs, sometimes the harmony between both, it's something that, we can't always find, and it's not always at the at the level that we wanted. So Melissa, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you, Ilana.
It's an absolute pleasure. So Melissa, I did a small introduction for you, but if you could share some of, I guess a few of the most pivotal moments in your journey that led you to the work that you're doing now. That's always interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So I never thought I would be doing what I'm doing. I definitely didn't dream of doing this as a little girl. My life, until around age 28, I was a stay-at-home mom, and I also didn't plan on doing that, but I really believe in living a spirit-driven life, and like acting on the promptings and heart nudges that I feel. And so around 20, I felt that prompting, got married to my husband. We had our first child. We had 3 babies very quickly, 2 years apart from each other. And I thought that's what my whole life was going to look like, which was very surprising. But I continued to feel like, yes, just like pour into the family. And so about 6 years into my marriage, I was very devastated after putting all my eggs into that basket when I found out that my husband had a secret addiction for the first 5 years of our marriage, and it totally devastated me. I ultimately asked him to move out, which was terrifying because I was not like financially supporting myself at the time. And, but I just knew like we couldn't continue with lies and like no trust in the foundation of our relationship. And when he moved out and I had three little ones, ages 4 and under, it really was a breaking point for me. And I had to get very clear with creating my own happiness, and having that not be dependent on anyone around me, on my husband or anyone around me. And slowly, probably for the next 2.5 years, we weren't really sure if our marriage was going to work or not, even after he moved back in. And, we continued to work on things. But eventually, I started to feel such a happiness that I had built in myself, and then such a connection in my marriage, that I realized I really wanted to share this with women, because as much as I wanted to completely blame my husband's weaknesses for the unhappiness I have felt in my life and my marriage, I was able to recognize that I actually contributed to a lot of the unhappiness I experienced in my marriage also. And so that is where I didn't even know at that point, like, what would that look like? What did that mean? I didn't know, but I just kind of like was ready and open. And then as the universe does, different opportunities were brought into my sphere, lots of different trainings and certifications and et cetera later. And here I am. I've been doing this work for the last 5 years, and has started working with entrepreneurs. It's been about 3 years that I've been working with CEOs and entrepreneurs around these pieces, because I realized what's funny is, even though I was a stay-at-home mom, it was a lot of the same patterns that I was experiencing that I kept seeing in these driven entrepreneurial women, where we're kind of like, we have some things where we're sort of sabotaging the joy and connection that we want in our marriage. So that's what brought me to where I am today.
Wow. I mean, and you have a beautiful story. Yeah, nothing is by chance, right? It led you, even though that was a hard moment in your life, right? Led you to your own inner self and your own personal development. And you kind of worked on that with your partner as well. And now, you feel like this is your calling to share this with other women that might be going through something similar, or even trying to balance relationships, family with their business, right? Or I know this is like an old word now, like nobody, there's no balance in life, only harmony and alignment. So we're going to get into it. So Melissa, what are the 3 pillars that you have discovered through your work that are the most important in really aligning with?
Well, it's so funny because this actually really relates to not just what's going to support us in our relationships, but also what supports us in our life in general. So the whole time as I share, I want you to be thinking like, okay, how does this support me in my relationship? But how does this also support me in like being a turned on, open-hearted, driven entrepreneur that's really making a difference in the world? So, so the first pillar I want to talk about is feminine intuition. And this is your ability to be deeply connected with your own inner voice. And this is something that we don't just do overnight, or we don't just like master this. I don't think ever. It's like something we're always attuning, right, Ilana? Like you've had experience with this where you're always attuning and honing and refining your intuition, your ability to listen to your inner voice. So I break this down as listening to your feelings. Your feelings point you to what you deeply value. That informs your deepest heart's desires. And all of that is actually pointing you in the direction of creating your best life, your most fulfilled life. So you can see how, of course, that's going to apply in your business, but of course, going to apply in your marriage. And what I find often with purpose-driven entrepreneurs around this is that we sort of bypass all of that and we go to like solutions and strategies in our relationship. Or if we're single and we're dating, we go to like let me just run this like an interview for my next position in my company.
Process.
And it takes away all that nuance, which takes away all the magic in our relationship or in our dating experience. So that feminine intuition piece. So that's your first one. Mm-hmm. Feminine intuition. Second one is reclaiming sensuality. I love this one. And before I just keep going, you're going to be like, what does sensuality have to do with being a business owner? But even Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich has a chapter about this. Have you read Think and Grow Rich, Ilana?
I have read it, yes. And there is a chapter about that.
Yeah. There's a chapter about this. A lot of people read that book and then they kind of, well, either you got a later copy, because I think after the 70s, they stopped printing this chapter. Which is hilarious. But either that or you read it and you just thought, I'm just going to forget about that chapter or skip that chapter because I don't understand what it is talking about. Like the rest, you're like, yeah, think positive, call it in. Yeah. And then you get to this chapter where he calls it the emotion of sex. He literally said,
that was my thought before you get into it. I'm like, what does this have to do with achievement and grow rich? Right? Success, right? But yeah, I can't wait to see your take on that.
So he talks about the emotion of sex, and he said, well, he was quoting, and it's not super clear, he was quoting a study that he had read about of somebody else's. And he said, in every case, people who were highly successful and had called in a lot of affluence and influence also had, I I forget exactly the wording now, like a corresponding relationship with the emotion of sex, and we're well developed in the emotion of sex. And I am like, there is something to this.
I
You know,
think
when
it's
I
called
first
like sexual charisma. I think it was the word, a sexual charisma
I
about
love
them, about their energy, about the way that they carry themselves. I think that's kind of what I took away. But go ahead.
I love that. And I mean, it makes sense. Like, if we really bring it down to the basic level, if you're feeling turned on in your relationships and you're all jazzed up and you're feeling all magnetic, or you're feeling like lovey dovey, you feel like you have sparks and butterflies, of course, you're going to show up that way in your business, which is going to avail you to be more open to the vision in your business, less concerned with the details, less upset when a problem arises. You can just like flow through problem solving more easily. Like, you're going to show up differently as a business owner. And so it kind of points to this idea that like your heart is the same no matter what hat you're wearing. Like, really, your heart is the same. So what heart are you showing up with? And are you really letting your heart come forward? So that's pillar number 2. We talked about feminine intuition and reclaiming sensuality. Our third pillar is intimacy as it stands, which I define as into me see. And this is both a relationship with yourself, which is tied to your feminine intuition, of course. It's about seeing deeply into yourself, but it's also then an ability to allow others to see deeply into you and to see deeply into others. So what we don't realize about deep connection in our relationships, what we don't realize is that we can only go as deep with someone as we've gone with ourselves. And a lot of times I hear women like, like, he just doesn't listen to me. He just doesn't see me. He just, like, we want to be seen at this deep core level, but we aren't allowing people to see us at that deep core level. Because the moment that he tries to lean in, the moment he tries to even do something kind, like hold the door or make dinner or whatever, we make it into something else. We have so many walls and barriers up around our heart. So really understanding intimacy, really bringing that into an embodied experience. And then how does that help us as a business owner? Well, we know what sells is vulnerability. What people buy when they buy your program is you. And so I see these extremely knowledgeable, coaches and thought leaders out there who only talk about their personal, their what's the word I'm looking for? IP, intellectual property. They only share about, this is my program. This is why it's so brilliant, yada, yada. And they're making very little sales, because what I want to know is, who are you behind the whole thing you created? And that's what people buy. So when we can really, create those relationships and those connections with people, that's where people really change. But our society has shoved that away. Like, even if you look at therapists, they're actually by law not allowed to share personal things unless you ask them. And, there's a lot of guarding around that. And it's like, wait a second, this is backwards. I have found some of my clients change the most by me just sharing like a really deep story of something I went through, because we have so much shame surrounding everything. We got to bring those walls down and bring in that third pillar of true intimacy.
Well, I love what you said there, and I really feel like this is the era where things are changing. But I see that a lot as well. Authority marketing. Look at me, I'm the hero. I've done that. I've done this. I've achieved that. I've achieved this, and automatically you have an emotional disconnection with the people that you want to serve, because they're like, okay, good for you. I don't know how that's going to help me. I'm over here struggling with this problem. So unless you can really relate your personal journey, someone else's journey, do really great at, be really great at storytelling from your heart and share your experience, that is where they can see themselves through what you're saying, right? Because people really resonate with your message because they see themselves in it, right? That's the only I mean, every time we listen to something, just like an interview like this, I'm always like, connecting the dots from my own personal experience, and you are just the channel that's sharing. But it's so much easier when you are vulnerable and you are sharing this from your experience, and I can really connect with that because I probably have gone through something similar. Not only our vulnerabilities, but even our messages. What do we think, is the solution, let's say, to certain things that we want, that we feel passionate or compelled to really do in the world, the work that we want to do in the world. So that is so, so true there. So I also speak a lot about heart-driven marketing, where it's not the hero, it's not the bait to give people what they want for that short term, so that, at that time you're giving them the wrong message, right? And thank God we are becoming more aware, right? We are rejecting all forms of traditional messaging out there for sure. But yeah, absolutely. And in personal relationships, it's always about, that I've done a lot of growth in this area myself. This is actually when my marriage was in turmoil. That was over, oh my gosh, 7 years ago, the 7-year itch in our marriage. So that's where I was pulled now to do this work, because I would do a lot of the similar things, like whatever my partner would tell me, I'm like, made a story about it, which related to some trauma and all of that. So I know this is such an important area, because again, if we want overall fulfillment in our lives, personal relationships is where, everything is, right? Our happiness, our fulfillment, our family, the people that love us, and even our business, they become family, right? I mean, the people we serve through our business, it's, it's
Absolutely.
other humans that we want to connect with. So they really become a whole, I call everybody a family. So I think this is one of the areas that is definitely worth investing in, and definitely looking into, because it really affects every other thing that you are doing around you.
Selena had asked the chapter in Think and Grow Rich. I think it's chapter 13. I don't know the name, but hopefully that helps.
Perfect. So chapter 13, I'm also going to double check that and add that in the comments, because I do have my book right here in my library. So after the interview, I'll go grab it. So that's really cool. Melissa, you've also written a book. So tell me a little bit about that. What is the message of the book? What is the reason why you wrote it? And what are some of the things that people will find in there?
I'm sorry. Can you say the very beginning? The connection cut out.
Oh, tell me a little bit more regarding your book. I know you've also written a book.
So I haven't written my own solo book yet, but I'm in the process of doing that right now. It will launch this year. So I'm really excited about that. I've done 2 different multi-author contributions. One hit USA Today bestselling author list, which was super exciting. The other one, Amazon International bestseller. The first one is called The Younger Self Letters, and I share a story in there about kind of like you're writing a letter to your younger self. I share a story about how I was abandoned in the desert and had to hitchhike home, which is a real experience that I went through. I had a really traumatic childhood, but different ways that the divine feminine kind of swept in and worked through me to get me to safety, and also how I was held by the masculine around me, meaning like the mountains, God, like I was so guided, even though I felt completely alone. And I think that really like speaks to business owners, because I hear often from business owners like how alone the journey can feel, how lonely we can feel on the journey. Even if you are great at networking and referral partnerships and whatever, it's like, yeah, but like who really knows my message and why it's so important to the world than me? So I wrote that for those individuals. And honestly, when I get triggered like that, that's who I go to, is my little 12-year-old self. And I'm like, okay, we got this. Because she's the one that wants to step in and go into trauma drive and go into like work like crazy, to try to like push and make this thing happen. So we work together to be like, hey, it's okay. We're going to just open up. We're going to be in receiving. We're going to just let this offer be, see how it resonates with people, etc. Younger Self Letters is that one. And then the other one is called Uncensored, Untamed, Unleashed. And that chapter I actually co-authored with my husband. So that was really beautiful. We talk a lot about how the earth is changing, the world is changing. We're moving into a more feminine energy-based leadership. and what do we do with that, and how important marriage is in that. Like I would definitely be labeled as a conspiracy theorist for sure. And as I see it, like the structures and systems that we've subscribed to are collapsing. Like we don't believe in our school system anymore, and we haven't since I was a kid, and I'm 35. Like we've known for a long time. But even our hospitals, even our religious institutions, like there's so many things that are kind of crumbling from what they have been. And what's devastating to me is the institution of the family, the unit of the family is also crumbling. But when everything else falls, what will we have? We will have family. We will have ourselves, and we will have family. And so it's so important that we like bring that in as a priority. If we don't know really how to connect deeply in our marriage or in with our children, and that, like if we don't really know how to do that, it's very unlikely that we actually know how to lead people and be in connection with people. So that's what I talk about in that chapter.
Wow. We definitely keep an eye out for those books as you're going to be launching them. But yeah, that's really important. And the connection with self. If we're not connected to self, maybe there is a point why they're all coming. Because for a certain phase and stage, for generations, they held up to that. But now we are more aware. I feel like people are more conscious, right? The education is out there. So we realize that there are some better ways to do things. And it's probably starting a revolution or whatever you might want to call it. But I feel like people are always going to be drawn towards things that they can improve, right, in their lifetime or generation wise. So I like change. I think change is always a positive thing. Yes, uncertainty comes with that, but also if you embrace it and if you grab the positive out of it, it definitely can be something that really serves us as humanity at a higher level for sure. Melissa, I also know you have an amazing community that you curate so intentively. You are very intentional in there, and you have amazing people that are part of that community. What are some of the things that you do in there in case someone that resonates with your message would love to join you?
Yeah, Women Manifesting Intimacy is a free Facebook group, and it's a space that I treat a little more intimately, like it's my inner circle. That in my email list, pretty much everybody that's in the group is also in my email, and I really share from the heart there, because that's the point of intimacy, right? Is like no walls, nothing hiding, and I encourage people there to also share from the heart. So over the years, gosh, I guess one of the ones that stands out the most to me is this one woman who was like, I'm so inspired by what everyone has been sharing in here, that she decided to share that she had only been sober for like 3 weeks, and she was working really hard through addiction recovery. And it was just like, like I knew that was like a pivotal moment in her life to share that on the internet, and anyway, so it's that's not typical what we're talking about. We talk about everything you and I've talked about today, but it's kind of surprising that like it can be really a space that changes people's life, and of course gives you, just more space, more voices in your realm that are encouraging intimacy as a priority, as opposed to just focusing on business and the next sale and all of that, which we tend to have a lot of that as entrepreneurs.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's amazing, right? When you hear the impact, and sometimes it's a silent member of your audience that you just never knew that they, probably been watching everything you share, your message, or other people's feedback, or whatever happens, and you can actually impact them that way. I mean, you never know what kind of emotional impact you can have on people. So that is always my message too, that just keep creating content, put yourself out, put your message out there. That's really what this is. All these different crazy channels, sometimes it feels like, oh my God, like what do I do first? It's really about what aligns with you. What is the channel that you want to use to build that community, and to really, share your message with people and encourage them to share their message, right? So it becomes a whole movement, a whole tribe, a whole energy. So whether you are Facebook group, whether you're doing it on your website, whether you're doing on LinkedIn, it doesn't matter. Just look at it as the channel to connect with the people that need to hear your message. And when you hear that impact, it's like, It just really gives you that motivation to keep going and to keep putting yourself out there and share your message with people, because it helped even one person. I would say power of one. Even if you helped one person, if this interview gets seen by at least one person, we are okay, because we have shared our message, and that person is now going to hopefully do something about it and change someone else's life. So this is how we multiply
Yes.
the impact that we get to make, and never underestimate the people behind the people. Because sometimes we just, it's easy to get focused on the traditional side of business, like, oh, I have 5 followers, like 5 people watch my thing, or, how do I increase my audiences, and all the numbers, right, behind it all. But it all will be a beautiful byproduct in sales and in income, if you really focus more on how to connect and how to build community, how to service, how to serve, and how to really help people serve them at a higher level with what you are doing. So whatever is your choice of community building app or channel or platform, do it, right? But do something that's consistent, so you build trust with the ideal people that are out there waiting for you. Always think about that. There's people waiting to hear your message. Melissa,
I
I
love
want to thank you. Yeah, I love everything you shared. I want to thank you for everything you shared with us. And your website, Melissa, where is it that people can find out more information regarding the work you do besides the Facebook group?
Yeah, I have a free intimacy guide that might really interest you if you've listened to this whole thing and found, that you resonated with some of this. And you go to just www.melissakeenan.com, which is spelled Melisakeenan. And that will opt you into the email community as well. But it's a great opportunity to get into that one pillar of intimacy that we talked about, the pillar that is intimacy, and help you kind of do some inner excavation, maybe at a deeper level than you have before, and then come up with a statement that you can then choose to share with somebody else, like let somebody else know, hey, this is what's on my heart. So go and check that out.
Definitely. I will definitely go check that out for myself as well, because I know I'm on Melissa's email list and Facebook group, and I'm always looking at her emails because I know how much thought she actually puts into the content that she creates. So it's
Thank
always
you.
really great curated content that I know comes from her heart, because otherwise, how could you produce that, right? So that creation is really amazing. Melissa, I usually ask my guests at the end also to share a final message from their school of life that you feel you want to leave our audience with today.
Oh, from my school of life. I love that so much. What's showing up for me right now that's really present personally is I keep contemplating the concept or idea that maybe Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married, which isn't a controversial topic, but if they were, and if they both really were who we think they are, then that probably was the most sacred, holy union that has ever existed on the planet. Um, I love Jesus. I always have loved Jesus. And I've been learning about Mary Magdalene a bit more over the last couple of years. And I think part of why I've always loved Jesus is because he was such a servant and such a leader. Like, he had a mission to help people. And I have always felt that call to really help people. But there have been times in my business journey where it has felt like there's a battle between me going out and helping people and me being really present and in the midst of my relationship. And so working that out has been so important to me. And that's been on my heart a lot lately. Just this concept that, like, if that is true, and if that did exist, which for me, that is a truth that I hold, like, they were, and that is a sacred union, and that sacred union is possible. And it doesn't mean it won't be, fraught with challenges or heartache or difficulties, just like it was with them. But we can still have a really big impact and influence in the way that we were called to, and the missions that we came here to fulfill, while also having a really deep love. And I know that that's possible. And I've seen it time and time again in my clients and even in my own relationship. So that's what I would leave you with.
All right. Well, there you have it, Melissa. Thank you so much for everything you shared. You are a truly purpose-driven, heart-driven entrepreneur. I wish you much success in your mission and your impact, and the way that you help female entrepreneurs really align their intimacy with their business. So there you have it, friends. You will find this interview on all major podcast platforms and also on our YouTube channel. So share, leave us a review, and subscribe so that I can bring you more amazing guests just like Melissa. Thank you so much. Have a great Valentine's Day, everyone, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Join our next high-level community event where you will meet over 30,000 purpose-driven entrepreneurs, and you can build meaningful relationships with high-level visionary leaders that will really stem from beautiful conversations, connections for future brand building, collaborations, and also client attraction. Find out more about the next networking event that we are organizing and join us for free to see if this is a community that aligns with you, your work, and your values.